Beatles, don't you? I mean, there's not a lot of subterfuge there. It's pretty straight ahead. But back when the Beatles were popular, you could buy a house on Lake Michigan for under $20,000. Okay, you could buy a cottage on any other lake for about half of that. Not a big deal. Does it work that way now? Now, of course, your dollar doesn't go as far any other way either. But cottages are one of those things where here's a test of it. Okay, try this. Go to Chicago on a weekend. All right, have you ever been to Chicago for the weekend? Have you ever been to Chicago for the weekend? Right, and then come back to Michigan on Sunday, anytime Sunday, preferably in the afternoon, early evening. Okay. And this is especially true in the summertime. Come back. And so you're heading back to Michigan, and the traffic is still moving. It's a little heavy, but still moving. And then look at the 4 rows of backed up traffic going from Michigan to Chicago. And if you wonder who are those people, right? We wonder if it's popular to get the hell out of Dodge, get out of town, right? Look at those people. When I grew up on the Cape, right, on Cape Cod, and that's the way it was on Sundays. We would actually go to the highway overpass that wasn't far from the house, like a mile away from the house. We'd bike over there just to look at the backup, and we were halfway out on the Cape. I mean, it was 20, 30 miles, to the bridges, and it was backed up all the way. It was kind of, you know, I don't know if we were doing it to torture the tourists or whatever, wave them goodbye, but it was one of the. I mean, I'm not saying we did it every weekend. It wasn't that fascinating, but we from time to time you just go and look at the traffic backup. Of course, we didn't have TikTok or YouTube or anything else back then. We had to look at and it was a black and white TV, and reception wasn't good on the Cape. So there you go. So things you did to keep amused. But anyway, the point is that everybody wants to get out of town. Everybody wants, I don't care race, ethnicity, religion, whatever. Everybody likes getting out of town. And then you got to go back to town. And the proof of that is look at all the people going back to town Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Okay. That's the thought. Now, when you have competition, right? Competition, more people want the same thing. Remember, we're talking about supply and demand with long-term care. Remember, when the demand goes up and the supply goes down, or it's just stagnant and demand goes up, it's a relative thing. What happens? The price goes up. That's what's happening around all the lake, every little lake. Everybody's built up, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because everybody likes looking at water for some reason. I don't know what the reason is exactly. It's elemental, I guess. And we got a lot of water here in Michigan, so great. It's wonderful. Everybody likes looking at it. A lot of people like boating on it and water skiing on it and fishing in it and all the rest. But that's not the elemental thing. The most thing is, looking at the lake with a cup of coffee, huh? I've done that. I bet you have too. Of course, I was renting. I don't actually have a cottage. But anyway, the point is, here we are, and you managed to get a cottage, or you sacrifice like crazy right now to buy one because the prices are crazy, right? The question is, how do you get the most out of it? Because, the prices are only going up. Everybody's like, oh, they're not making any land. Real estate always goes up. Well, yeah, there's land and there's land, right? There's good places and bad places. And the thing is, with cottages, those are always going to go up because everybody wants to live on the lake, right? Just make sure it's not the lake like we had a couple of years ago out east, eastern southeast Michigan, I guess it was. The lake was held in by a dam. The dam collapsed. Now, instead of looking out on placid water, oh, it's so lovely, they're looking at a mud puddle. Ooh, bad. You don't want that one. But get a regular lake, spring-fed lake, and you'll be doing fine. Point is, the price is getting so high. Lifecycle to cottages is little kids love them, teenagers hate them, young adults rather sell them, and then when you finally have kids of your own, or you're a little bit older, I don't think you even need kids, but you get a little bit older, and now you're full of regret and nostalgia, and whatever happened? Why did we ever sell it? It's like old cars. You talk about guys with old cars. Oh, I had one of those. So many. I don't know why I ever sold it. Well, I'll tell you why you sold it, because it was rusting apart. It was a lot of work to keep maintained. There are reasons, very valid, good reasons. The point is that if you have a cottage right now, my suggestion is that you should break those reasons, break the cycle. Okay? Break the cycle. Here's how you do it. Everybody, or a lot of folks, oh, I just do a deed on the cottage. I just deed the house, deed the cottage to my kids. The problem with just deeding the cottage to the kids, when you do that, is what about the kid who leaves the milk in the refrigerator? Okay. What about the kid who leaves the garbage under the sink? What about the kid, right, who leaves the lawn chairs out? What about the kid who, brings all his friends, they vomit in the bathtub, and then they leave and they don't clean it up? What about that kid? All right. Well, you cannot effectively sanction that kid. You can't prevent. What if they don't want to pay the taxes? You can't make them. What if you want to get them out? You can't get them out. You're stuck. What if they come, right, and they have the crazy party with the biker gang and everything else? Apologies to biker gangs, but too bad. The biker gang comes and rips up everything and doesn't maintain it. It's terrible. Who's going to get hit with the housing code violation? All of you. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for deeding this to all of us and make us put up with Yo-Yo Head over there, who's ruining it for everybody. And there's no escape. You can't get out because you put them on joint. Oh, we want to stay in the family. So, whoever dies, last man standing, whoever dies last owns the thing, right? And in the meantime, you're all joint owners. So, we keep it in the family. We don't have to worry about divorces. We don't have to worry about it going to an in-law. Like that's the thought process that goes on here, okay? Because nobody likes your spouse, right? We don't want to put them on. Well, I just wanted to be my kids, right? That's the thought process, generous thought process, nice thought process. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because because of the nature. It's like scorpions in a bottle. You put them all in there, you shake it up, and see what happens. Not good. All right. So the reaction to that, what people have been doing in reaction to that, there's a guy up in Traverse City wrote a book on this. The reaction to the easiest, simplest, most common way, which is utter disaster and family dislocate, horrible stuff, horrible consequences. The reaction to it has been, let's set up an LLC. Let's set up a company, give everyone shares in the company, right? In the limited liability company. That's the idea, or a limited partnership, which is not a good idea, but they set up the LLC. Now, the advantage to that is, now we've got rules. Now you can't bring the biker gang. Now, if you want to use the thing, you've got to pay the taxes. You got to help with the utilities. You got to leave it in a certain way. Now, with the LLC, this was a huge leap forward, understand, from the way that it used to be done to now. Now it's a LLC, right? Now limited liability company. Oh, wow. Now it's great. All right. Much, much better than the joint tenancy. There's also tenancy in common. I'm not getting into that right now. If you have a question about that, though, give me a call and we can discuss it. But the point is, we went from putting the kids on the deed. This is what everybody said. Oh, I'm going to name my kids on the deed. Oh, what a curse on your family. What a curse. And you say, oh, well, it worked out in my family. I'm like, yeah, there are pink elephants out there. I believe that, albino, there are pink elephants, right? It could work. You might get away with it, right? But most of the time when I hear these stories, what happens is one of the kids buys the other ones out, right? With these joint tenancies and stuff. Right? It doesn't really work at all because that wasn't the idea.